And then your second part is categorize your tasks based on impact. And I'm really interested, I think I understand it, but I'd really love to understand what you mean by categorize, first of all.
Sure. This is kind of it's a multi-stage process. So the way I think about doing this is you've agreed the goal that you want to achieve. Let's say it's build a certain piece of software. Then what you need to do is get everybody who's going to be doing the work on that to do a massive brain dump of every single activity, every task they think is necessary to make that goal happen. And you just write them all down. And this is called lots of different things in all of the different kind of project management styles, but it's essentially your biggest list of things that you could possibly do. Not everything on that list is equally important.
Yep.
Not everything on that list is equally difficult to do. And so if what you want to do is get to your result as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible, you need to categorize these tasks so that you know what are the big needle movers. And by that, I mean, what are the if you're using a Moscow, like what are the must-haves?
Yep.
If we don't do this, our solution will not work.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get all of those together. And then all of the other things are low impact activities. You could do them, but you will still get the minimum viable product if you don't do them. So you've then got two categories there. But to kind of complete the sort of planning process, you want to split them again, and you want to split each of those two categories by basically how difficult is it to get this thing done. And so if something is then impactful and easy, and the definition I use for easy is I and my team can get this done with the resources that are currently at our disposal and without relying on anybody else. That's easy. Or is it hard? And that is we don't currently have the resources or the skills, or we are dependent on somebody else to do something so that this piece can be complete. And then you split high impact and easy, high impact and hard. And you can do the same as well with the nice to haves too. So you then have, easy and low impact, hard and low impact. Yeah. And so now you've got basically a 2x2, which will give you a sense of where you're going to start. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take everything in the bucket that is hard and low impact and you're going to chuck it, because that's lots of energy for very little return. So we definitely don't want to be wasting our time doing that.
But I've experienced where you go to a team and you say what you're doing is low impact and difficult or whatever, and it right now it doesn't prioritize. We have to stop doing it. And that team can become very possessive, very offended that you're going to take away their work. And they will say to you, but it is important. Again, if I put my engineering head on, it will be, I need to re-engineer this thing so that it scales better or something. And there's not really a direct link to now customers can pay for things on the website. It's just sort of some engineering thing, but they get very possessive over that work. And if you ask them to say, okay, I want you to stop that and I want you to start working on this, they find all sorts of reasons to resist and say, you're wrong.
Yep, that can definitely happen. And I think that is because you're not necessarily fully aligned on what the outcome is that you're trying to deliver.
So back to stage one.
For me, that's where I would go back to at that point. So before going to a team and being like, cancelling all the project that you're doing right now. I mean, in an ideal world, of course, you've done this planning before anyone started doing any work. So they didn't get started on doing this thing. But obviously in real life, that doesn't necessarily happen. So I would go back and I would start the conversation with them from first principles, which is getting everybody realigned about what we're actually trying to deliver. I was going to say, I mean, if at all possible, based off that principled discussion, you would ideally be able to lead them to the point of them deciding that actually they want to change direction because they're not having as big of an impact as they could.
Right.
Again, ideal situation, that may not always be possible. But if you can in any way use your communication skills and your relationship skills to lead that conversation to where the idea, this is low impact and actually a lot of work for very little return, comes from them, that's going to make that decision a lot easier.
Right. So, and do you see that taking place in sort of a big organization or department wide workshop presentation where you bring everybody together, or do you see that as a series of sort of team based conversations?
I've done both. And each have advantages and disadvantages. A massive organization-wide workshop can be really effective, but of course it's also very expensive.
Yeah.
And it may not be feasible, and it certainly isn't feasible for every single project that you're working on. So I've done that when we were working with a large multinational who wanted to basically completely restructure, and we got everybody together and we did a series of workshops, and we did kind of replan every single department in the organization to get to the point where we were able to reduce the workforce by the amount that they wanted to, while still being able to deliver what they needed. But that's a huge initiative, so it did kind of justify the expense.
Yeah.
I think most of the time, this is probably going to be team conversations, even bilateral conversations with the people in the team who are most influential. There are always people in teams who are kind of the leaders of the thinking and the leaders of the culture in that team. So sometimes it's going to be bilateral with them, and then them using their influencing skills to kind of bring people along.
Got it.